What's up, everybody? This is Robbie, and you're watching Geek Level Asian. Today we're going to talk about Boom Studios' Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue 29 of Shattered Grid. The issue opens up, and we see Kelsey from Lightspeed Rescue and TJ from Turbo and In Space, and they're in a prison on the moon right next to Rita's castle. The issue then cuts over to the command center where all of the Rangers that we've been following are now gathered, and they're talking about how Lord Drakkon, and in all of his efforts of collecting everyone else's power, is actually destroying the grid even more. Since Ninjor was captured by Drakkon, he has the most inside information, so he lets everybody in on what Drakkon is actually planning and how his tower actually works. And what we learn is Drakkon's fortress, Drakkon's tower, is actually almost like a gigantic cell phone tower. He's using the tower to transmit a signal to all of his armies so that he can share the powers that he collects with all of them. So with him using everybody's powers, and through the tower transmitting everybody's powers so that his armies have access to them, it's making the grid shatter even more. It's putting a strain on the grid, and they mention that this could break all of reality. I don't even want to know what that actually means. Jason, now that he's back from Corinth, he introduces Dr. K from RPM to everyone in the group, but he also introduces Grace to everybody. I thought this was an interesting decision for him since him and Grace weren't really getting along, but later in the issue, they bring context to this. They also mention on this page that they are in a pocket dimension that's connected to the command center. And what I like about it is that they actually make a joke that they ripped off that term from somewhere else. And then, Coom. Not kaboom, not boom, Coom. An unidentified ship lands in front of the command center, and when we see what's going on, it looks like a Saiyan ship. It almost looks like it's designed exactly like the ship that Goku arrives on Earth in, that Vegeta arrives on Earth in, that they travel in, and it even makes a little crater in the ground like those ships do too. But forget the Saiyan-like ship for a second. The more important part about this page is that Andros and Karone are finally in the same place. And what would a Shattered Grid issue be without Lord Drakkon? We now cut to Lord Drakkon, and he is less than pleased with what's been going on in his fortress. Skull, who infiltrated his ranks as a Red Sentry, led a rescue mission to save Ninjor and help out the good guys. After he says what he needs to say to Skull, in the next illustration, the onomatopoeia that is used is snap. And then the next cell shows Skull laying on the ground. I think we're supposed to get the idea that Drakkon just broke Skull's neck. So, ladies and gentlemen, Skull is dead. And this actually ruins one of the theories, one of the things that I thought was gonna happen that I spoke about in my last video, but we'll talk about that later. Now, the next part is pretty important. Finster 5 lets Lord Drakkon know that he's found Ranger Slayer, but she's in the past before the grid shattered, so they can't bring her back. The same way that Kimberly can't bring back Tommy because it happened before the grid shattered. So since they're not able to bring Ranger Slayer back, they are able to open up a portal so that they can communicate with her, and we learn something pretty interesting. As they're having a conversation, Lord Drakkon realizes that Ranger Slayer is acting a little bit different and is questioning his authority. Then Finster 5 notices something strange, that Ranger Slayer is morphed, but her bow is nowhere in sight. Now, if you remember, when the Sword of Darkness was destroyed, he turned good. So that leads us to believe that the only reason why Ranger Slayer is working for Drakkon is because they're using her bow, the two Swords of Darkness, to put her under some type of spell. And Drakkon even says, so your mind is clear again, which obviously means that he's been manipulating her in some type of way. So obviously he now knows that he has to cut ties with his comrade, who is also his ex-love interest, and he says goodbye to her, and that he'll miss her. And he says it right in front of Finster 5, his new bae. And on the next page, we start to see the consequences of all of Lord Drakkon's decisions. We realize that with all the power that he's collecting and everything that he's doing, it's actually tearing him apart. He physically might not be able to handle it all as the grid is shattering. So now back at the Command Center Pocket Dimension, we have a nice reunion between Andros and Karone. Something that never happened on the show, and we are getting in the comic. But something that I noticed on these pages is that Zordon is able to kind of just be outside of his tube wherever he wants to go now. When did that happen? You kind of just see Zordon's head floating around in the background of the illustrations. I mean, the last time I checked, Zordon was confined to his tube. How many times did the command center get attacked and Zordon's tube was empty and it was a crisis? Now he can kind of just show up wherever he wants. After Andros and Karone share a nice brother-sister family hug, Zordon and Commander Kruger are commiserating about how difficult it is of a task to lead all of these young adults to be Power Rangers, and as much as you want to protect them, you really have no control over them. And sometimes the decisions that you have to make are very difficult decisions. Which is a great segue into the next conversation between Jason and Grace, who are talking about how hard it is to be a Red Ranger, how hard it is to be a leader, and how sometimes as a leader you have to make the wrong decision for the right reasons. So I know that this issue seems like it's been a lot of conversations and a lot of planning. Well, here's where things start to actually happen. Andros, Carone, Commander Kruger, and Lauren bring up that they have to rescue all of the Rangers who are imprisoned on the moon. But how is everybody gonna get to the moon? Now here's something that I didn't realize. A lot of you may have already realized it, but I didn't know. Actually, let me know if you realize this. Promethea is Terra Venture. I didn't know that. Maybe I should have realized that already, but I totally didn't know that. And so that's what they plan to use to take all the Rangers to get to the moon. And now here's where the issue gets really good. There's only a few pages left. Alpha 5 informs everyone that all of the other Rangers who received Zordon's message are now arriving. And this leads to one of my favorite illustrations in the entire Boom Studios Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comics series. This illustration is so powerful. I love the point of view, I love all the colors, I love how it's the Rangers looking up at the sky. It's hope. And then we get a reveal of all of the Rangers that have shown up, and they are standing very close together, don't you think? I mean, look at Cam. He's back there like, hey guys, I can't see anything. Now, some things to point out about this particular illustration is that Beast Morphers is on there, which obviously, as we all know, has not been released in the United States yet. For any Sentai fans out there, Death Ryuger is all the way in the back from Kyoryuger. We've never been introduced to that character in the United States, so my question for you is, who is that? Like, hey, you in the back. Yeah, you. Who are you? Are we possibly going to get the first ever Ranger introduced in a comic book? And the last thing I want to mention about this illustration that makes me sad, because I talked about this in my last video, something that I thought was going to happen was going to be a reunion between Bulk and Skull as Rangers. Bulk has now arrived as the Yellow Hyperforce Ranger, but Skull literally just died. So I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like Bulk and Skull are not going to have that reunion that I was hoping for. So I mean, this is all great. All of the reinforcement Rangers have arrived, but Kimberly asks a really important question. Like, yeah, we have all these Rangers now, we have a plan, we're gonna go take down Drakkon's fortress, but what about Drakkon himself? And that brings us to the last page, the cliffhanger. On the last page, in the last illustration, we see Zordon and Commander Kruger seeking assistance from a very unexpected party. Rita Repulsa, which confirms the principle of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I think I'm saying that right. Ladies and gentlemen, there is only one more issue of Shattered Grid, issue 30. What do you think is going to happen? How do you think it's going to end? I'll tell you this, all the ways that I thought it was going to end, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen anymore. I originally, because of the conversation between Lord Drakkon when he infiltrates the Zeo team, I thought he was going to see the folly in his ways and realize that his friends did love him and he didn't have to turn evil, but it doesn't seem like that's gonna happen. What are your theories? Please make sure you leave them down in the comments. I'm definitely gonna do a video when issue 30 comes out, and if you like this video, make sure you check that one out. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. You can follow me on all of these social media channels over here. I'm most active, I would say, on Instagram. Thank you so much for checking out this video, and until next time, all of you Ranger fans, may the power protect you.